Hey everyone, welcome to Aerobic AF. I'm Ken.
And I'm Quinlan. We're pumped you're here. This is your home for running, fitness, and all things hybrid training.
New episodes drop weekly wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
And don't forget to connect with us on our Instagram at aerobicafpod.
As athletes, we train our bodies, we train our legs, we train everything, sometimes 6 or 7 days a week. But most of us never train the thing that decides whether or not we fall apart at that critical point in the race. Welcome to Aerobic AF. Q, this episode, or the idea for this episode, came to mind because earlier this week we actually went to a seminar that was a gift for my mom for Christmas of one of the spiritual teachers who has been most influential in my growth in that area, Eckhart Tolle, who was doing a talk at the Meridian Center. Actually, one of the 2 times you were there this week. You were
Been there a lot this week.
Yeah.
Once for Eckhart and the other for Top Gun.
So very different vibe.
Very different vibe. But you know what? The importance of both is needed as part of balance. I did not fall asleep in the Top Gun concert.
Or the Eckhart.
Well, I fell asleep probably for 5 to 8% of the total time that Eckhart was speaking. For those of you who are unaware, he's very funny and can be engaging with what he says, but the tone of voice is so soothing that it is very easy to just kind of float off to sleep, which I definitely was not doing while watching the Top Gun movie concert, which is very high intensity and like got my blood pumping watching them fly around in those F-18s. Very, very intense.
Maybe that's what we should be discussing today, the cultural importance of Top Gun and its sequel,
Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, comparatively to the importance of
the presence
the
of now.
Yeah, the power of now.
The power of now.
The power of
yeah.
now. Eckhart Tolle's New York Times best-selling book.
Yeah, it actually is an interesting dichotomy and kind of goes into what we wanted to talk about today, where in order to perform and be at your best, you need elements of both. Like, it's important to be able to like dial into your breath, feel controlled in the moment, especially when it gets hard, be able to, hold back and know that there's more to give when you do need to find that extra gear. But also, what I learned from Top Gun is sometimes you just have to send it, not think at all. That's the whole thing. He's like, don't think, Rooster, just do. And so I think they kind of go hand in hand in terms of where you need to dial it up and kind of risk it, so to speak, or, give it your all, versus having that sense of control and really, understanding where mental fitness can get you pretty far.
And we talk a lot about, VO2 max, intervals, what kind of equipment we're using, whether that's shoes or equipment otherwise.
Nutrition.
Nutrition's a big one for sure.
Sleep. Massage.
Yeah. We talk about
everything.
all of these things on the show, but one thing that we haven't really talked as much about is how your brain states, or your, your mindfulness and your awareness of cultivating that area is equally as trainable and equally as important.
Yeah, like when my mind is not locked in during a race, it is very difficult to realize my full potential on the day. And it's easy for distractions or, sounds of or voices of doubt when they creep in and it gets too loud, or you start to panic because you're, in a very intense environment, your heart rate's climbing, the physical load is, building. You really need to be able to keep yourself engaged, but in a calm, but still like very intense way. So yeah, mindfulness is an awesome tool for that. There's obviously many ways to practice it and cultivate it, but that's been something that, I mean, we've both been focused on, but you've definitely, had more times in your life, I feel like, where you've really used it to your advantage. And so, yeah, I mean, I know you've talked a lot about the benefits that you felt over the last few months even. So, yeah, share this great tool with us and all your wisdom.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. I do think that there is a part of mindfulness that kind of gets misinterpreted. And people think that if you practice it, it's like you're just sitting on the pillow with your hands
like
up.
A yoga.
Yeah, exactly. Like or like doing whatever.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there and nothing's going through your mind, and that's what it is.
Part of it.
Yeah, I think I think that a large part of it is basically just becoming aware of the way that you are conditioned to react in certain situations, and then practicing not reacting in that way, or becoming aware of it so that you don't react negatively. And as it pertains to sport and just everyday life, but we're taking more of a sport obviously angle here. When you are in like the deep, when you are in that,
you got to
5K, 10K, if you're doing a HYROX,
you got to find it.
Even to a lesser extent, I know it's not like as intense, but like a half marathon or a marathon, it's like there's going to be a point in the race where you are going to have to dig deep, and your body's going to be telling you, or your mind's going to be telling you no, and your body's going to be sore. To be able to condition yourself to understand that, I mean, Steve Magnus talks about this a lot, to be honest, that if you are aware of the way that your body reacts in those situations, and you can pay attention and maintain control under the stress, it actually allows you to push harder or actually just relax into the feeling and let your body take care of the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I find that mindfulness shows up for me in races when I actually need to be able to turn my brain off and just do. And kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about the whole, like, don't think, Rooster, just do. It's actually true. Like, sometimes the best way forward is to just go off of that flow state, but you cannot enter that flow state without your mind being able to, like, either turn down the noise or block out, the things that pop up during a race that you did not plan for. Like, you really need to be able to kind of turn it off. And so that's where I find it helpful, for me at least, like, getting comfortable not thinking is really important and hard to do.
It is hard to do. We had mentioned before that this is something that I've been practicing for a little bit longer. There were times in my earlier 20s where it's like I was dealing with like a pretty deep depression. I think I was like lacking a lot of direction and just not really feeling that great in general, which led to me just feeling like very, very low. And one of the things that was ultimately able to help me pull out of that was adopting meditation and adopting a mindfulness practice. And I basically just meditated like almost every day for the better part of 2 years. And it really helped re-solidify the foundation and just kind of like ground out the chaotic thinking that I had never really addressed, or like I think a lot of people just walk around with
and you find other ways to numb it, or as we talk about, like, just reduce that noise. It's so interesting. I find that like the most common path to spirituality is when you're in like a very dark place and Tole was
talking about this the other night.
Yeah, he basically, he summed it up pretty well of like the people that find it are the ones who have gone through very dark periods. And it's because it's almost like there is nowhere left to turn. So you're like, I guess I will try this thing that a lot of people seem to say works. And now that I've reached the bottom or
breaking
what I
points.
think is my bottom, I guess I'll start now. And so I guess, yeah.
I mean, that was definitely true for me.
I mean, me too. I read The Power of Now when I was in second year university. I was in a very, I think, anxious period of time because of my workload and, all the things that come with the stress of a student life.
Chemical engineering is hard.
I had 6 exams in the first 7 days of the exam period in my first semester of second year, and each exam was worth like 70-80% of my grade, and they were all very hard. And I distinctly remember like studying for the exam for like 12 hours I had, writing the exam, walking home, bawling my eyes out. I gave myself like a 15-minute window to just cry, got home, ate something, and then went back to studying for like my next exam the next day. And it was so awful. But I read the book, and I think parts of it spoke to me, but it didn't really, I don't know, it didn't resonate as much as it does now. Like, I definitely find I understand it more now. I think I wanted to understand the concepts and put them into practice, but I was too young, or I don't know, not bought in. I wasn't bought in yet. I'm like, oh, this all sounds great, but I don't really know what to do with this.
I think you have to be at a point that you're ready to receive the information in the book. And this is another thing that he brought up. It's like sometimes people pick up his book or like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And then the same person will pick up the book 5 years later, which sounds kind of similar to your experience, and say, oh, wow, I don't know how I didn't get this before. But a lot of this makes sense, that we are creating our own suffering in our minds with the ways that we think about the past, with the ways that we relate that to the future, and the ways that we basically do not live in the present moment and choose to propel ourselves either into a future that doesn't exist, or which causes, like, I think, a lot of anxiety.
Oh, yeah, lots of anxiety.
Or just a lot of depression by thinking too much about the past.
Yeah, I totally. And when I think about athletes and how they adopt mindfulness, I feel like it's similar, but maybe not a dark, deep pit of despair that propels them into spirituality and mindfulness. But it's like, how else can I move the needle on my performance? And so if you are someone who does feel like you're pretty locked in with your physical routine, your nutrition, your strength training enough to support the cardio and running that you're doing, but you want something else to improve, definitely look at meditation, because I do think, as we've talked about it, it's a performance, it's like a performance drug that's free, basically.
And it does
if you
help.
Can use it to your advantage.
And it helps in every area of your life too. And we're not talking about a huge time commitment here. Oftentimes what we budget, or what we've been budgeting recently, is 5 to 10 minutes a day.
Yeah,
that you
I've
are
been
working on this.
Slipping on that. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll just do a quick 2 minutes. I don't want to lose my streak. But yeah, it's like running. I think you talked about this too. Like, you start with a little bit. So don't feel like you have to go in and do like 30 minutes of mindfulness a day. You start with 5. You build up your volume, your mindfulness volume, by like 30 seconds.
This is like an emergency right outside the apartment right now as we're recording.
It's really distracting. Hopefully everyone's okay. But you do 5 minutes a day, then a few weeks later increase it to 6 minutes a day. Like, you do it slowly. And actually what I've found now is that I'm much more comfortable just sitting in silence in general. Like, I actually
just being alone by yourself.
Yes,
in the
like,
quiet.
I'm not afraid of my thoughts. I'm much more comfortable with them just kind of floating around, doing their thing. Sometimes I'm like, oh God, this again? Okay, let's let that pass. Like, I thought we were over that one. But I try to just be in silence, just more in general, in like kind of day-to-day life. I find that it is just like actually kind of nice. it's a very stimulating world that we live in.
For sure it is. And that's part of the reason that you do need that calmness, and you have to create it for yourself, because we are constantly stimulated in that way, and it can be really overbearing.
Yeah, especially with like the ways that we choose to invest in our free time, like working out and stuff. It is like a high stress environment. Like your body doesn't recognize the difference. Even an easy run causes some level of stress, right? So I find it an important balance actually as an athlete to be able to just relax a lot more throughout the day and then dial it up when I need to. But I do want to talk about the ways that mindfulness has maybe impeded some of my performance. And I think it's interesting. So when I raced HYROX Houston, this was my first race. Yeah, I know. I've talked about this one a lot. It's like my Roman Empire. I think I learned so much from that weekend. But this was my first race that I had done since practicing a daily meditation routine. And I was so excited to go into this race feeling very calm. I thought that was the answer. I'm like, I'm going to run so fast because I'm so calm. I'm so centered. And I said this to my girlfriend, Shannon, who was there with me. I was like, this is the most calm I've ever been before a race. I didn't really have the nerves, the butterflies. Like, I was just kind of like, all right, let's go. And I found that for me, it actually was not good because I wasn't like ready to roll. Like, I didn't feel that kind of jittery, fiery energy within me that I need in order to have a good race. So it ended up being like I just, dialed the effort back. I stopped for water a couple of times and I was so chill. I mean, it was fun. I was not pushing myself to this like breaking point. But what I learned from that was that it wasn't that mindfulness didn't work for me performance-wise. It was that I didn't use it at the right time. Like, I actually need a little bit of pressure and a little bit of stress before the race to get me in that state of mind. But I still very much need the benefits from meditation when I'm actually in the effort itself. So this is just my experience with it. I think that you know yourself best and how you race. If you are someone who gets so nervous to the point that you are like debilitating or you're not performing because you're so stressed, then mindfulness will probably do wonders for you in that department. But I'm someone who I need the stress to actually start the race strong. That's my little TED talk on mindfulness.
Fair points. I have a lot of things to say about this, but I do think that in general, it one of the physiological effects is to lower the baseline stress. So I lowered it right down. Yeah. So I was like, oh, this will be fun. And then I was like, oh no. I mean, I guess the other side of that is it does also reduce a cortisol spike when you're under perceived stress, and can also improve your HRV because your nervous system is much calmer, which obviously aids in recovery. Yes. And yours, that metric for you has actually been a lot higher recently. I'm shocked at my HRV in the best possible way. I actually think that has been the single best thing for me, is that I feel so much more balanced with the level of stress from working out, balanced with this more relaxed day-to-day kind of tone and feeling that sense of calm. I can share with listeners my HRV, but I've seen it go up to 140. But what's important to note about HRV is that everyone has a different baseline, and what you want to see are peaks and valleys. I expect my HRV to drop the day after a hard training day. It's your body's recovering, but then after a rest day, I expect it to go back up. So I'm now seeing a very predictable and common pattern, and it's the range of the top end and low end is quite
drastic. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy about that.
And this is an individual metric, HRV as well, because like for context, mine doesn't really change too much. It basically, if it's on the low end, it might be 12 points lower. And then if it's on the high end, it's like,
What's been your highest recently?
if I'm lucky, I get into the low 50s.
So crazy.
Yeah, and it's like if it's low, it's like it will go down to like 40 or be like a little bit under 40, and that's why I'm like, oh, okay. Often that's like very tied to if I have like any alcohol, mine will drop like quite significantly. So if I have like 2 beers, my HRV drops by 10 points.
So funny. I normally that's the case for me, but I've only noticed it drops when I have hard liquor. But if I'm on my IPA,
good thing we're off the hard liquor.
well, I'm on the IPA train, so I just have one
we're
IPA.
Training for your beer mile.
Yeah, I have one IPA, and I can sip on it over the course of an hour because it's like higher alcohol content, and so that's been my hack for drinking, but not letting it affect my metrics.
Fair enough. I'm also just going to say for the listeners, I am not prepared to attribute the Houston race, Houston HYROX race to mindfulness.
No.
I'm rejecting that premise. That was we talked
There
about that
was a
race
lot that was going on that race.
And it'll be interesting actually to see, because I thought that you did race well in Ottawa in all of your races, and now heading into World Championships with this being a practice that we've been at, like you've been over 100 days in a row now too. Your streak is actually longer than mine because mine broke.
Oh, right, you broke yours.
But
I'm at 118,
which is amazing, and and I've definitely seen the difference as well, just in like the day to day. It's like just seems like more calm, more composed energy. It's like it's just across the board.
Someone told me that at work the other day too. They're like, "You do seem calm," and I'm
Telling
like,
you.
"Yep, I'm trying." But I think it's important not to go too much down the work rabbit hole, but if you are like a leader in your space, I do think that a key attribute to good leadership is being able to be calm, especially when everyone else is panicking. And I do find that there's a lot of moments, at least in my world of tech and like software development, where there's panic or a lot of pressure to deliver. And you can experience it in any workplace, obviously, but I feel like I'm always the voice of like, it's gonna be okay and we're gonna figure it out, and like, let's just make a game plan. And I really like being that person, and I sometimes, even if I'm panicked on the inside, I think it's just important to remain calm. But no one's perfect. Obviously there's still things that like trigger everyone and gets you more emotional and reactive, etc. I think it's just like the more you can be aware of that and try to not indulge in those thoughts and those voices, then the better off you are. Not just in the middle of a race, but in everyday life too.
So we talked about physiological effects of mindfulness being lowering your baseline strengths, reducing cortisol spikes under stress, improving your HRV, which obviously means better recovery. In addition to that, it also can give you better parasympathetic nervous system control and helps you return to whatever your baseline is faster after a hard effort. So your heart rate is just going to drop much more quickly.
That's a good way to measure fitness too, is how quickly your heart rate can come back down after a hard effort. I think even like between intervals, like something that's important if you want to work on top end speed or like VO2 max, is that you actually let your heart rate come back down from like a zone 4 or 5 to zone 1. Some people can do that within 60 seconds. Some people it takes closer to a minute and a half. And so that's another good way to measure, I think, progress, if you can, reduce the time between the high intensity intervals. And mindfulness should support that.
Yeah. And a good way to think about it in like the way that we think as athletes is simply you don't burn out mentally as quickly during the race. Your breathing will stabilize faster after hard efforts or pushes throughout the race. In your training, this can also show up by meaning that you just recover between intervals like a little bit more efficiently and a little bit more quickly. And if something goes wrong, which it always does.
Always does.
In the race.
Plan for something to go wrong.
Especially in HYROX, there's so many variables.
Too
you don't
many.
spiral as easily when that happens. So more or less, just to make it a concise point for everything, it doesn't make you less intense, but it does allow you to be able to control that intensity for longer.
Yep, I agree with that. And something I changed for Ottawa was to apply my own internal pressure that I needed before the race. I need, look, something I know about myself is that like one of the reasons why I do think I perform well is because I perform well under pressure. And I trust that I'm going to show up for myself in a high pressure situation. But this is not the same for everyone, and that's okay. So if you aren't someone that thrives in that environment, or you've been finding it kind of stressful, then I think it's really, really helpful to go in with like a more calm, collected energy and vibe. I just like... Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm the odd man out, but I definitely need to like dial it up for myself. I'm listening
like a lunatic.
Well, I'm listening to music like I like Eminem, like you only get one shot, and I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is the only race I'm ever gonna run. I gotta make it amazing and perfect. And
your hype up playlist is hilarious. It's like AC/DC, Thunderstruck, Lose Yourself, Eminem. It's like it's quite an eclectic mix. And very sacred.
It's very sacred. I only use that playlist when it matters because I don't want to ruin the songs.
If I hear Lose Yourself playing in the bathroom before a race, I am not going anywhere near that bathroom. I know what's going on in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to like build the fire from within me, and I find it really fun to like feel that feeling kind of take over myself. But what I will say is that during a race, being able to be adaptable to what we were talking about, those things that come up when you're not expecting it, like maybe you get a cramp, maybe you can't take down your fuel, or something happens that inserts a level of panic or threat to the performance. That's where I think, at least for me, mindfulness really shows up in a beneficial way, because I'm able to kind of work through that thought in a productive way and not let it take over. It's like, yeah, once you let it take over, it's game over. So if you let those thoughts consume you and take over in your day-to-day life, whether you're at work or personal relationships, whatever it is, then you're probably going to let it take over in a race.
This is a good transition point, because we're just about to discuss how performance breakdowns aren't generally about physical failure. It's a collapse of the attention to detail when you're under that stress.
Totally.
So, and we've talked about the mental stories a lot on this podcast, how that state can spiral, and you could start thinking about things like, oh no, I'm fading, or I blew up and I can't recover from this, or I can't hold this pace. And that can start creating a whole narrative in your head, which is also costing you mental fatigue and mental energy, which is one of the biggest adversaries when you're in a longer, harder effort, and can really torch everything to the ground.
Totally. If you are wasting energy on the mental stuff, then
RIP.
Yeah, it's hard to get that back, and you only have a certain amount of energy, right? So you want to be, it's energy management, and if you can work through those things quicker and not like overthink it, then the better you are for it. And I think that's why a lot of people are starting to, not look at their watch as much. I know you don't race with a watch, and that's been helpful for you because of this exact reason. The watch is just giving you something to anchor on, good, bad, otherwise. Like, sometimes it's just better to not know.
I do feel better without the information, because what I was finding before is I just start crunching numbers, and I start calculating, and I start thinking about running paces and where I'm at this point in the race and where that means my projected finish time is going to be. And it really starts just creating a feedback loop that wasn't really that useful. And ultimately, what I'm trying to do is really anchor my attention in things that I can control. So that means my cadence, that means my breath, that means my form while I'm running. And by doing that, it's really has, reduced me from feeling overloaded in that way during the race, which has helped me also just run technically better races that are tighter.
Just smarter.
Yes, and it also prevents me from escalating in a negative way emotionally because I'm detaching from that, which has happened to me.
You do in Toronto.
Yeah, it was
very hard. I remember
a nightmare.
Yelling at you, being like, "Forget about it! Like, it doesn't matter," because Ken had missed a lap, which is a 5-minute penalty, which is basically like the race is over in like time.
And what we're talking about when you're looking at a performance metric, 5 minutes is crippling.
5 minutes is really bad. So I was just trying to say things like, this changes nothing, like just race as if you normally would. But, it was clear that his mind was already gone and there was no coming back. And, it was hard to watch. But when you encountered something hard in the race like 2 weeks ago, you did not fall apart. And that was the difference maker, I think, for you in the race.
Huge difference maker. And I was able to push through and realize that it was not an ideal circumstance, but you just have to grit it out and then try to do the best that you can the rest of the way with what's in front of you. And you know what? Sometimes it isn't going to feel good, and that's okay, but you do need to just stay functional and stay in the moment. And if you are able to stay calm, like you hopefully can be able to respond in a positive way and just execute the race plan the rest of the way better than if you aren't able to stay calm and you lose the edge and then everything just falls apart.
And something else I want to say about how to practice mindfulness here is that it doesn't need to always be like you alone in your room with like a timer or a guided thing. Something that I used to prioritize a lot more was doing a run workout or a long workout by myself without music, because it mimics a race like zone, at least for me. Like, I don't listen to music when I race. Obviously in a HYROX there's like blasting music, there's a lot going on, but you kind of are just with yourself, right? Like, you're not with your own playlist, and it's not there to distract you. So I do think it's important to mimic race day conditions mentally as well, and practice figuring out how you're going to talk yourself through a hard effort. So, doing this for easy runs is fine, but I think you really get a lot more bang for buck when you do this during like an interval workout, and it's just you and your thoughts and your watch, I guess.
This is interesting because I actually feel that I'm more locked in the interval workouts. I actually find it harder on like an easy run. Like, I find that to be like way harder mindfulness practice, because like I can really drop in like an interval session and just say, okay, I just need to get through this 1 kilometer.
Intervals without music, but an easy run without music is hard.
Yes, I do find that practicing mindfulness is, I think it feels at least more difficult for me doing like a 1 hour easy run by myself without music is like a really, really powerful way of sorting through some,
whatever works for you.
You know what?
Yeah.
Like that will give you some time and you'll figure out what's bothering you. And if you're aware of it, you can really do some work on that during the easy run.
Oh, it's such good
during the intervals
time.
I'm like, just count to 200 and then it will be done or something, and maybe people think that's crazy.
I think whatever works. I just think it's important to have one run a week that's without music, and get yourself used to being with your own thoughts, because that's all you got out there.
And whichever one feels harder, do that one. Because that's actually the tea, is like, if you feel like it's intervals that are harder to do without music, or if you feel it's an easy run, whichever it is, doesn't matter. Do the one that feels harder, because that's where you'll actually get the most juice. And this is where you'll start to see the benefits the most by adding that one extra layer to your training, that is that mental aspect of it that we maybe overthink or don't think about as much.
Totally.
So like Steve Magnus is somebody that we talk about a lot, and he has really kind of put mindfulness for athletes on the map. He wrote that book. Oh my God, I can't remember the name of it.
Winning the Inside Game.
Winning the Inside Game. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
I think the inside game is like you and your mind,
yes.
right?
So
or like
it basically is like mindfulness for athletes, and he is so about just understanding that as an athlete, by being self-aware, we can notice performance relevant signals earlier, and we can actually train our bodies to react to those in a positive way, instead of seeing it as a sign that we need to pull back, seeing it as a sign that everything's good and like we're get comfortable with that feeling, and it actually allows us to perform at a higher level than, you know, when we're younger in our athletic careers and you start to feel that pain and it's like maybe you want to ease off there. Or then it becomes a signal now as more experienced athletes. It's like, okay, I'm familiar with this. We kind of know what to do. We've been here before, and we know that we're able to push through.
Yes, and that's the key differentiator here, or distinction rather, is that it should be a positive frame, not negative. So if you have a go-to mantra during the race, it should be like encouraging and something that you would probably cheer to a friend. Really, it's like you're cheering for yourself. So instead of saying things like don't panic or, you know, don't let up, that's very negative, and that can actually increase the level of stress and anxiety that you're feeling and lead to more panic, versus something like just breathe, control your breath, like stay locked in. Those are much more positive. So I think that's important too, is if you notice that your mind is, you know, going to a more negative place, or you're, you know, getting this like PTSD from a race before, being like, oh, I can't believe this is happening to me again. Like I'm always the victim of the bad sled lane, or I knew I should have fueled better for that. Like, you know, it's like, don't put yourself down during the race. That's not mindfulness.
No, that feels bad when you're doing that.
Yeah.
I do think the positive framing is super important. One thing that he also talks about in his book, and you can use this or not, is he talks about encouraging yourself in the third person.
Yes,
so,
like as if you're cheering for a friend, right? You're like, go Quinlan, go, like you got this, Quinlan.
Yeah, and in a weird way, psychologically, it makes it feel like you have someone rooting you on. And then it actually helps you perform better. And it's like, this is an interesting one because it seems like a weird thing to do, but it's something that like I have practiced just to try and stay calm, is like stay calm, Ken, like you've been here before, like you've got this. And it just is, it does work like pretty well, I think, in conjunction with the mindfulness practice and the meditation, all these other things that we're layering in, at managing to stay calm and just like follow the breath and just control the things that are within your control your cadence. And it really just has helped me like stay calm in the harder efforts in training, and by association stay calmer in the actual race.
Yeah, no, it's like all these things are so important. And then the other one we didn't really touch on a lot yet is like breath and breathing. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can train mindfulness or practice mindfulness. I think even if you just, you know, stop for a few minutes and focus on your breath, that can be a really good way to ground yourself and bring yourself back to your body. I read a few chapters of a book recently called The Oxygen Advantage, and it's not specific to mindfulness, but the concept or framework is similar, where you are just more or less sitting in silence, focused on your body and scanning your body in that way. So something that I've been trying to do actually is like breathe out a lot more and focus on that. I find that to be good. It's like you're getting rid of CO2, allowing more room for oxygen to be carried throughout your blood, which is what we talk about. Oxygenated blood is powerful and can perform well. But I think it kind of comes back to like the fact that there's many ways to train this muscle. And if you find that breath work is something that you want to get into, that's definitely like an element of mindfulness.
I think breath work is so important. And you had mentioned the body scan as well. I mean, these are things that we talk about a lot at our gym, One Academy, and they are really promoters of this in the cool down ritual, where it's like we do breathing exercises and we do body scans, and the intention is to train mindfulness so that we can bring that heart rate down, regulate the nervous system, and really just allow ourselves to recover better in that way. So all very important tools and very accessible to everyone.
On the topic of cool down, super important to do as well, to bring your body back down to a like normal level, I guess. I used to escape out of the gym before the cool down ended because I felt like I had to get home or had to get to my next thing. But if you have 50 minutes to dedicate to a workout, you have 5 minutes to dedicate to a cool down. It's part of it. It's part of what helps your nervous system relax. And I think, again, is a good opportunity to practice mindfulness where you just soak in the effort. That's actually something I've been liking visualizing more recently, is after a hard effort, whether it's a run workout or at the gym, is giving myself that 5 to 10 minutes afterwards to let the work sink into my body and to really think about it. Actually, what I really liked that you did in one of your community classes last week was that you said, like, what's in the cool down, it was like, what's one thing that you were really proud about how you executed today in the workout? And it was really helpful as a cue or prompt rather, because sometimes we get caught up in like, oh, well, this didn't go well, or that didn't go well, or I didn't hit my paces, or I faded at the end. But when you focus on something that did go well, even if it was one thing, even if everything else was bad and you felt awful and you want to throw up and all these things, it's like, if one thing went well, I think, I was like, you know what? I actually held the line on the runs. Like, I didn't let up on the runs, and that felt good today. Even though some of the other parts of the workout, I was like, oh, I think my pacing is a little slow on the ergs. And, it's easy to get caught up and overanalyze it. So, yeah, that's kind of also my long-winded way of saying cool down is important. Focusing on the positives is important. And these are all, I think, again, elements of mindfulness and just being kind to yourself and making sure that you are positive, and not like a toxic positivity kind of thing. Like, of course, there's days that go wrong, and that's fine. Own it, lean into it, learn from it, but just
don't let it spiral.
Yeah, and
the T.
Anchoring in something good will just do wonders for you.
Okay, so we're talking about how athletes can train mindfulness here. We discussed focusing on breath, body scan, and just generally practicing returning attention to the task at hand, even if your mind is wandering. During reps, we discussed this, like, just find something that you can anchor on during the rep. For me, that's often my breathing. Like, it's always there. I'll be just
that's what I've been
paying attention to
focusing
that.
on too.
Yeah, it's a really good one to make sure you're in through the nose, out through the mouth. You're feeling controlled in that. I, to a large extent, feel like if you control your breathing, you are in control of the workout and in control of the reps.
If you start kind of hyperventilating, it's like, oh God, this is not good. But mouth breathing, what I learned in my Oxygen Advantage book was that
mouth breathers are inferior.
No, as an athlete, you have to mouth breathe in order to do the high intensity work that is needed to perform well at your sport. So if you are out there trying to force yourself in through the nose, out through the mouth, like, it's okay if you're not doing that the whole time. I think do it during the warm-up, the cool down.
You can do it for the first half of the rep.
Yeah, for a little bit of the workout. But if you then all of a sudden it becomes mouth. You're like, it's like all the way.
Halfway through the rep, it sounds like you're just surrounded by a bunch of rhinoceroses with the
Maybe
breathing
that's why
going
people
on.
wear their headphones.
Yeah, the facts is to want to hear us grunting and gasping for air during our 1 mile repeats.
I like hearing other people breathing, because if they're breathing harder than me, or my perception is that they're having a harder time, then I actually find I get a bit of a confidence boost from that. And I'm like, oh, maybe I actually do feel better than I thought. And then the other way around is like, oh, damn, I'm working hard. I got to hold on to this person who's obviously having a better day.
Yeah, it's live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah.
In that situation.
Exactly.
We did talk about stress exposure and awareness. So if you are in a harder workout, like a threshold style workout, a HYROX style workout, or a running workout that's requiring higher intensity intervals, if you do start to notice that your thoughts are slipping or you're starting to panic a little bit during the rep, just try to practice not reacting to it. It's something that's available to you all the time, and that muscle will build up over time, and you become more aware of that stressor in particular, and eventually your body will not react to it in that way.
Yes, and a good example of this for our Toronto listeners, sometimes when we run by the water, there is a strong headwind, especially in the colder months. And I find that sometimes when I'm running an interval workout by the water and I turn into the hard headwind,
ouch.
Yeah, it sucks. And sometimes my thinking is like, oh my God, are you kidding? Like, now there's wind and now my paces are going to be slow and this sucks and this is awful. And
That's
like,
quite
sure.
the monologue.
Yeah.
Quite the internal monologue.
No, it sucks. I hate the wind. But sometimes when I'm having, a better day, I just start laughing and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, of course it's windy on the day I have to do this hard workout. And that actually is a much more positive, freer way of thinking, because it allows you to also just pull back and be like, you know what? I'm just going to run by feel, run by effort. I'm not going to get fixated on pace. I'm just going to, take the environmental conditions as they are, but I'm not going to get angry at Mother Nature. Like, what good is that going to do? So those are just some ways that you can practice mindfulness in training and showing up positively versus focusing on the negative, because it's easy to focus on the negative.
I don't think you can win by getting angry at Mother Nature. Every
Nope.
once in a while you see the videos of people in Florida running out into a hurricane and firing their firearms into the hurricane as if that's going to do something to stop it.
They are a different breed out there in Florida, that's for sure.
The Florida man remains undefeated.
Yeah. Or, oh my God, that's so funny. I'm just picturing that now.
It's so bad. That's real, by the way. When you're racing, also, just figure out ones that work for you. Find a couple of cues that you can just anchor on. I know we talk a lot about digging deep. That's something that you and I both use, like time to dig deep. And just, I know one that you shared with me that I still use quite a bit is just reminding myself that, like, I have been in whatever situation is before, or even more difficult situations, and I have pushed through. So it's like kind of a situation where I'll be like, I know this is hard, but you're up to like the challenge, and just stay calm and push through. And like that really helps me stay grounded in those harder efforts and maintain control.
It's such a good one. It's one of my favorite ways that I've built confidence is through doing and through action. So when you remind yourself that you've done it before, it's another way to just reaffirm with yourself that you can do hard things and you should be confident in the race to do that hard thing. So the proof points are there. You just sometimes have to remind yourself of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't have too much else to add here. I do think that ultimately, I guess, like, kind of our main takeaway is that we spend so much time building our engines. There's a lot of talk about building your aerobic engine, building your cardiovascular engine,
getting faster with speed,
VO2 max, all this
stronger
sort
at
of
the
stuff.
gym.
Yeah, but none of these physical attributes matter, and we've talked about this in other episodes as well.
None of it matters. Throw it out the window.
Yeah, if you aren't actually able to use it when it matters, which is up to the preparation of your mental states entering the race.
Mental fitness is super critical. And again, I think similar to when you go through something really difficult in your personal life and you hit that bottom, that rock bottom, you turn to spirituality and like the power of now and the present moment. If you've been struggling with your races or feel like you just haven't been able to string a good one together, or you're just looking for a boost in your next race
or in your day-to-day life,
explore this one. Give it time. Give yourself like 30 to 60 days to build the habit, like start building the muscle, and just use it as a data point to see how it impacts your performance.
Yeah. I do think that's an important one as well. It's like this is a habit that will pay dividends over time, and the longer and more time that you contribute to it, the more benefit that you see.
Yeah, I think it's like it builds up gray matter in your brain. So it's also just good for brain health, right? Like we didn't even get into the science behind it, but there's a lot there.
Yeah. Well, aside from, it does help with like cognitive function, cognitive reasoning, like, as you said, like kind of like the gray matter function. And it does create better connection points through all the different hemispheres and like the prefrontal cortex, and it's like everything starts talking to each other,
which is great,
much more effectively when you are doing this practice. So ultimately, we do like it when all of our neurons are firing at the same time and working together, rather than in some weird dysfunctional network that has been overstimulated by everything in contemporary society, which is a conversation for another day. But yes, we do like it when everything is functioning as intended, and meditation helps to realize the full potential of that.
It really does. So this was great. I love talking about the mental side. Obviously we focus a lot on physical, so as you said, it's just important to pay attention to both.
If you did connect with today's episode, share it with your training partner, share it with a friend who might be struggling with the mental aspects of the races. Anyone who is really looking for a more grounded experience in both their athletics or just in their day-to-day life. Share this episode with them, and hopefully it helps them as much as it's helped us.
Changing lives, one breath at a time.
One episode at a time, changing lives. In the meantime,
stay
aerobic AF.